When Gary and I finally got to live in between the Yorkshire Dales and the Lake District, we were just so thrilled. We had visions of, family hikes together and all sorts of outdoor pursuits. But when the twins were born and it seemed like there were some major problems, we really thought we'd said goodbye to that.
So DDX3X, it's a genetic condition. It's on the X chromosome, as the name suggests, and it basically means that their proteins don't sequence correctly. But in reality, that means that, they've got communication difficulties, developmental delay, and some autistic traits.
Well, DDX3X is a spectrum, so it can cause a range of problems. Communication is a huge issue, ranging from kids who can't talk right through to kids who just can't stop talking, but their understanding really is quite compromised sometimes.
The best thing about Pip and Alex is how keen they are. They are so enthusiastic about everything. They will, even though they have difficulties, they attack everything full throttle. Everything they do is 100% full on, and anyone around them can't help but get pleasure out of watching them have such a fantastic time.
We first introduced Pip to climbing when she was about 5, and actually we came with great ideas and Pip wouldn't do any of it. It was as much as we could do to get her to put on a harness and to put on a helmet, and that was the first step. But we were encouraged such a lot by seeing other young people that we came back, we had another go and managed her first climb probably about 2 or 3 goes after her first visit. So yeah, it's been quite a hard journey for Pip to learn how to prepare herself for going out into a busy environment. There's a lot of information coming in when you step out into the world, but once she got to know about climbing and how good it was, she entered a whole new acoustic environment, that she could actually cope with. And that's had huge impact. It means, for instance, she was able to cope with going into a church for her cousin's wedding. That's directly through her love of climbing in the climbing wall.
So for Pip, environment is quite a big thing for her in terms of the difference between a very quiet place where we can do one-to-one coaching and then somewhere that's big and loud and open spaced where there's a lot of people around and it can be quite overwhelming. In the couple of years that Pip and I have been climbing together, I've seen a big difference in this. When I first started with her, we started in Bendrigg Wall and then moved to Ingleton Wall, which is quite a quiet, secluded wall in a village. There's not many public people use it. There's very little group usage, and when we go, it would always be kind of on a one-to-one basis and she'd cope. The first couple of times that groups came in, Pip didn't really handle it very well. She would get quite distracted, she could get quite nervy, and then she wouldn't be willing to climb. She'd get quite upset and the day would be over. Now, Pip can now go to a bigger wall. I mean, the fact that she's climbing in competition says it all, but we've moved from Ingleton to Kendal Wall, which is a much larger space. There's a boulder wall upstairs, there's a very, very high wall downstairs. Those little achievements that to other people probably don't mean that much, to Pip they're massive. The fact that she can get up a climb where she's done a really good move, or what she calls is a cool move, and she'll tell you it's a cool move. So when I first met Pip, she was a really good, confident climber even then. She had a lot of experience using ropes indoors, but she had very little, if any, experience doing outdoor climbing at all. This for Pip was completely different. And when we first started, she was very nervous in the outdoors. Even just the lead up to a climb for Pip, not just the climb on the rock face itself, but the actual environment and the terrain leading up to climbing outdoors in a crag was quite a challenge for her. Most climbs are not very accessible. We hadn't really done any kind of outdoor crag that involved a walk-in. And for anybody else, this walk would probably be quite simple, 5–10 minutes if that. When you're carrying a load of kit and you're not sure about where your footing is, for Pip it was actually a massive, massive challenge. It took us a good half an hour, 40 minutes just to walk up this. There was moments where I wasn't sure if she was going to manage it. But she did really well, and she persevered. And there was nothing about her that moaned. She didn't stop and moan. She didn't say, let's turn back. She had a few moments where she looked a bit nervous, but she persevered and she got here. And once we got here, because she knew she could climb at the end of it, I think is what brought her on and what pushed her to do it. Climbing for Pip, it brings her on because it gives her a sense of freedom, definitely. And it's something that she can control herself. For a normal climber, having to do a move is just one step, but I think one step for Pip doesn't really work. And in normal life, I think that's quite hard to break down, but in climbing it's not. You can take one step and you can break that down into another 5 steps, and that works really well for Pip in the way that her mind works. Pip's achievements in the short space of time that I've known her have been phenomenal. She's become part of the para climbing kind of community, so she's been in different heats kind of all over the UK. She does climbing in Manchester, she's been up to Scotland, and she's placed first in quite a few of these heats. And she's doing really, really well, which I think has only helped her confidence.
She also has benefited so much from making a good friend in Charlotte. Friendship's really hard if you've got a communication difficulty. Most of us develop our friendships by chatting. If you've got a communication difficulty, you can't chat. But if you enjoy a sport together and you both have a clear goal, getting to the top of that wall, there's a hell of a lot you've got in common. And in that way, you begin to bond and you begin to feel happy together and have got material you can reflect on together.
And it's not something that comes readily with Pip because he does find life quite hard. But being in an environment with her friends, climbing to see her shouting and cheering and appreciating their success along with her own is just brilliant. It just really fills you up.
I think the combination of being physically absorbed in an environment she can control helps in all sorts of ways that you would never have dreamt. She now feels so confident that she will do more things when she's on that high from having succeeded at climbing. So if we've had a good session at the Ingleton Wall, for instance, she's so proud of herself when she'll march into Inglesport at the end and she'll order her own drink, pay for it herself, sit down, you know, I'm here just the same as everyone else, I can do stuff. It's given me such pleasure watching Pip climb. I've always loved the outdoors. The fact that she can now love the outdoors too because she feels happy to go out and experiment with walking on rough ground or going up a hill. It's an essential part of life. And at one point I didn't think she was going to be able to enjoy that essential part of life. And now look at her.
Bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you in the sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
I think for Pip, looking over the past 3 years, it's been a little bit kind of like a ripple effect where you see the progression of her starting out as just this little person that's very quiet, not very confident, and then she's just come on leaps and bounds. She's just grown so much. She's like a different person. She's a very confident young woman, and I really look forward to seeing where she goes with her climbing in the future.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may
When I see Pip climbing, as a father, to see your daughter who really doesn't struggle with life, but when you see her climbing and she's on the rope and she's going up the wall and she's persevering, and when she's done a cool move she'll cheer, she'll shout. It's just brilliant. You couldn't replace it with anything else.
Home is with you wherever that may